And good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in podcast land. Brendan Cunningham, the real estate doctor for EXP. With me, Matt Paul. He's going to talk about all the things that you thought you knew about last week, but we're going to fill in the gaps. We have a special guest with us that I'm going to let Matt introduce. But in the meantime, a little State of the Union. What's going on in the market, Matt?
Yeah, it's picking up a lot. We're getting quite a bit more inventory hitting the market every day here in Western New York. So it's starting to look like the spring market's in full effect here.
Actually, as it turns out, the market is up 20% year over year nationally, and inventory doubled in the last month nationally. So, yeah, so we're starting to see a little more inventory. I would say more nationally than locally, but we are starting to see more listings. So that does provide some opportunities for our guests. But let's get right into it because we have
Yeah.
a really cool guy sitting up there, and he completes our trio of beards today because this is definitely BYOB. Bring your own beard. All
Yep.
right,
Nice.
Matt, who is this fellow up here? Wally Bressler
Yeah.
or something like that? Is he a
Wally
good guy or a
Bressler,
bad guy?
great guy. One of my coaches. I coached with him for a few years now, and he really helped me get out of my own way on many occasions. So it'll be great to have him on the show. Thank you for your time, Wally.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I even trimmed my beard so that I would represent well today. So
Thank
looking a
you.
little gangly. We're all good. I mean, yeah. Thank you very
Looking
much.
good. Looking
Appreciate you.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's get right into Wally. What's your story? What are you doing? Hit us.
What's my story? Oof. Yeah. So I'm a life and business coach. I work in the real. I specialize in the real estate industry, real estate agents, lenders, title reps. I work mostly with business people, salespeople. I've been in the real estate industry for 28 years. I've been coaching for 25 years, and I also specialize in helping people overcome procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and call reluctance, and things of that nature. So that's what I spend most of my time doing. And I also spend a lot of time helping people get good on the phone after they get over what's keeping them from getting on the phone and being successful. So that's kind of the 30-second view there, or the 30-second pitch, if you will. That's who I am in a nutshell.
Yep, and that's what I worked with Wally on was the call reluctance class, and it really, really helped a lot. So a lot of
Thank you.
tools in
Yeah,
there that you get that actually you can use all throughout life. It's not
yeah,
just for, you know,
Yeah, and in
absolutely.
life,
Appreciate that.
everyone needs a coach. Everyone, and
yep,
some people have multiple coaches. I mean, I can remember Luciano Pavarotti. He had three different vocal coaches, and he was probably the number one opera singer in the world.
yep,
Three different coaches.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yep. I mean, Tiger Woods. I mean, pretty much any lots of
Everybody,
professional people. They
everybody.
have, and they have mindset coaches. They've got technique coaches. They've got strategy coaches. I mean, every professional sports team has a mindset coach. They've got position coaches. They've got hitting coaches. They've got pitching coaches. So it's not unheard of.
hmm
Interesting fact though, and this is how can I explain this? You know, the people who are willing and able to take coaching are the people that grow the most, right? Because they're willing to take feedback. But a good portion of our society, whether you're a professional or not, doesn't want to take feedback because they take the feedback as criticism rather than feedback. Is that fair?
yeah,
And a lot of that goes all the way back to when we were little kids, and something negative happened, and our flight response kicked in, and then our brain has been basically protecting us our entire life, and so it views any pain as pain that it wants to avoid. That includes feedback. Okay. And so people who aren't able to take feedback, it's not that they're bad people, it's just that their mind is wired in such a way that that feedback represents lack of approval, lack of acceptance, it represents rejection,
hmm
right? And so as a result of that, when I say, hey, you know, you can, may I make a suggestion? Sure. When you make this call next time, say this instead of saying that. And a good 60% of people, their fight or flight instinct will kick in, and their mouth will get dry, their palms will start sweating, right? Your body goes into fight or flight mode, right? So it dries your mouth up, it shuts down your digestive tract, it starts shooting sugar and fat into your bloodstream. It makes you more aware, you get goosebumps, and then that's because your brain's like, oh, this is pain, we need to get ready to run from this. And so your brain gets so used to doing that, when somebody says even the slightest thing, you can get triggered, and then you're avoiding everything, including feedback from people. And we all need feedback, or we're not going to get better. And I was that person for, I don't know, 50 years, so I get it.
Yeah, and the triggers is what came from that, because the triggers are your triggers that are going to happen at work, they're going to happen at home, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
happen in everyday life. So if you figure out
Yeah,
what triggers you and then how to overcome those, is what you're really like focused on and
hundred
taught us.
percent,
Yeah,
hundred
you
percent,
can.
hundred
It's a
percent.
whole life balance. It helps you in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was actually on another podcast last night for a pastor down in Georgia. Okay, and he was doing like a 10 part series on peace and how having peace is important and how peace is a process and it's an active thing to have. And so we were talking last night, and so we finished. And this morning I was doing a little bit more research, and I was like, and I know this, but I just wanted to back it. Like, certainly things that were traumatic when we were children, those definitely kick our fight and flight response in, right? Fire, freeze, fight, right? Kicks it in, protection, protection, protection. But oddly enough, even things that are stressful, even things that we perceive to be stressful, or that create some sort of, they trigger our negativity bias, can also create that fight or flight instinct as well, right? Brain's all about protection, but it's only supposed to protect you technically from things that are going to kill you or do you damage, or right? But it also things that take away your peace and your happiness and your sanity. So anything it perceives as a slight in any way, shape, or form that could create stress, that create negativity, your brain is going to protect you when you're younger, right? Because when you were 5 years old, you didn't know how to differentiate between what I'm going to let bother me and not bother me, right? Our parents didn't even know it themselves, right? They couldn't even teach us. It just happens over time, and finally we get to the point where we need to do it. Otherwise, our lives are going to be a mess. So you could have never had a horrible childhood. You could have never been hit. You could have never been bullied, right? But somebody could have said something to you once that came off as being negative, and that one little thing could have triggered you. And for the rest of your life, your brain wanted you to avoid anything that created that pain. And then it started, let's avoid other things that could create other types of pain too, right?
Yep.
And for me, I give you a perfect example. I remember, we grew up poor. Nobody told me I was poor, but I saw the lunches other kids brought to school, and I saw my lunch, and they were very different. I saw the clothes the other kids were wearing to school, Levi's and Timberland boots and nice ski coats, and I was wearing tough skins and whatever boots we could get at Montgomery Ward's. And so, and then I remember, I'll never forget this. I still remember this to this day. We went to take a look at a timeshare, and the guy was driving a big Cadillac. We walked in, the guy had a Rolex, and I was like, there's something very different between that person and me. In my mind, I basically created my poverty consciousness out of that. And literally for the majority of my life, despite the fact that I was doing well financially, I would get sick to my stomach, my brain. I would literally go into flight response when I was around people with money because I felt like I didn't deserve it. Not one person said to me, you're poor. Not one person said, you're not worthy, you're not deserving. I just made that observation and decided that I was different and not worthy of things. Is that fair?
Yeah, and it stuck with you.
And it happens like that, and in fact, it explains the fact that I burned through over $6 million in my lifetime because I just did not believe that I was worthy of it, right?
Yep.
So, and it doesn't matter where you are in your life, whether you're in business, whether you're, you own your own business or you work for another company, you're a mom, you're a dad, whatever. These types of experiences when we're children drastically impact so many areas of our life.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Brendan, do you have anything to chime in with that? I mean,
Well, I just yeah.
When you're coaching your clients, I presume you have several types of clients, businesses as well as individuals. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And do you have a preference? Do you like to work with individuals or teams or companies?
I mean, I like it all, and I mean, from a use of my time standpoint, working with companies and teams is better because I can help more people in an hour or over a period of time. I do like working. Sometimes there are some people that need work one-on-one, and I do. To your point though, even though I do most of my work with teams and with companies, I do work with people individually from those organizations as necessary to help them. But in order for me to have the biggest impact and to change the largest number of lives, working with companies and teams has been most of what I've spent my time with over the last 4 or 5 years. But I still have a handful of one-on-one coaching clients too.
When you do one-on-one, is it one-on-one in person? Do you work strictly with Zoom, or are you using the technologies? How are you setting up your business?
I don't do a lot of in person, so it's mostly Zoom and phone call, for sure.
Okay.
And but it's mostly Zoom and phone call. Yep. I mean, look,
Okay.
I could work on Mars if I have an internet connection. I can help someone.
Yep. Yeah,
What
that's when we
What are
were.
you seeing as your biggest challenges these days with either companies or individuals?
Uh, People
We have
believing
stumped
that
the
they can.
stars, ladies and gentlemen.
What'd you say?
We have officially
Yeah,
stumped the
yeah,
stars.
no, there's a list, and I'm just trying to think about what's most prevalent. No, I, getting people to believe that I can help them and that they can make the changes in their life that has been around for 40, 50, 60 years,
The
right?
belief system.
That,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like they already have enough limiting beliefs, and now here's this guy who, they've only met once, or they saw me speak one time, or they saw me in a podcast, and I've intrigued them, and I'm like, hey, I can do this for you. Now, good. The good news, I have case studies of people that are, worked with me 3, 5 years ago. I've got hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of men, women, old people, young people, black people, white people, Asian people, that I can say, hey, listen, I did this for this person too. But still, getting people to get to say, okay, I'm willing to do this is I can do it because it's what I do. But that limiting belief system and those dyed in the wool and those like cemented, locked in, I'm stuck like this for the rest of my life are some of the bigger challenges.
It reminds me of the
And
sign that I have in my front yard, still left over from last year, Bill Eve, because everyone believes in the Buffalo Bills up here and we're going to do it. And you know what? Sometimes people make fun of the sign, and that's just part of the deal. People are going to make fun of your
yep.
belief system. So
Mhm.
you either
Yep.
believe it or you don't.
Yeah. Well,
But
mhm.
chances are it's going to be a lot better if you do. So
I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm a Patriots fan,
Yeah,
so
we know this.
oh my God, we just
I
lost
think
our
we've got,
connection. Oh, what happened?
oh my God,
He was right
click,
there.
click, yeah. I think there's a new rival. I think there's a new rivalry brewing.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll see what happens. Well, yeah, well, I mean, Josh Allen gave the Patriots plenty of poster board material, or right, billboard. What do they call it? Corkboard material for the first game next year, right? So we'll see what
Yep.
happens. So
Yep.
anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. Yeah, you do have to believe in it. I think I'm trying to think. I want to say I heard this from Dr. Robert H. Schiller, but it may have been Zig Ziglar. He said sometimes you gotta see it to believe it, and sometimes you have to believe it to see it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that comes right out of the
Sometimes,
Gospel with St. Thomas. Yikes.
yeah, right, exactly, right. For sure, right. Like I don't believe it. Well, here are the holes in my hands, right? So, right. Sometimes you got to see it to believe it, but sometimes you got to believe it to see it. And
Yeah.
you got to believe that it can happen, and then when you believe it, you can start seeing it, right? I think that kind of comes from when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah,
So,
that's one of my favorite quotes. When the
it is right,
student
and
is ready,
so
the teacher will
yeah,
appear. Yeah.
and that historically comes at a rock bottom moment or somewhere, or a very very painful experience that you're like, I can't keep doing this anymore.
I don't want to
Some
feel
of
that again.
us,
Yep.
yeah, some of us had to hit rock bottom. Not everybody does. In fact, I encourage you not to. You just have to use some of the experience that you have and look at them and create enough pain around not wanting to do that again to make the decision to move forward. If that makes sense.
Wally, do you have any books or projects you're working on right now?
Yeah, actually, can I shamelessly plug my book?
Please.
Yeah, check it out.
All right, so this is called Rethink Everything You Know About Prospecting. It's part of Kyle Draper's Rethink Everything series. Got a whole series of Rethink Everything. This is actually the 15th book in the series. I'm super excited about it. I was fortunate enough to get former Keller Williams CEO Chris Heller to write the foreword for me. Super, super nice guys. And while this book is, and it's on Amazon now, while this book is geared towards helping salespeople, particularly real estate salespeople, get over what's getting in front of them that's creating call reluctance, the procrastination, the perfectionism, the imposter syndrome. While it's geared towards that, everything I talk about in the book applies to anything where you're not able to move forward, where you avoid things, right? So if you're a procrastinator in starting a new business, if you're a procrastinator getting out of a bad relationship, if you're a procrastinator going and getting a new job, if you're a perfectionist of any sort, right? If you have imposter syndrome, that talks about the things you need to do to find out where it comes from and then do battle with it to help it go away. I'm going to give my usual disclaimer here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed therapist. Okay. So the stuff that I share in the book here, there's actually a disclaimer in the book. It's worked on other people. It can help you out. But if you need like real help, which we all do at some point, go get some help. Get a therapist, get a counselor, get a psychiatrist. I work with the same counselor for almost 4 years, twice a week, because I had that much to work on. So, but obviously Matt Paul is living proof of that. If you do the things I tell you to do, you can get out of your own way and with some guidance, put yourself in a better position to do better in business and life for sure.
Oddly enough, I was having a conversation the other day with somebody about imposter syndrome. And you know what? It's a lot more common than people think. I mean, it's like everywhere. And usually I see it in the best and highest producers in any field.
Yep.
They're the ones that suffer from it the most. They're unsure of
There's
themselves. They're just unsure of
100%.
themselves.
There's a life coach named Tara Halliday out of England who we've talked a few times. I was on her podcast or my podcast a while back. We talked about that. She works strictly with C-level people who run million and billion dollar organizations and have tens of thousands and tens of thousands of people working under them, come home every night and think the worst of themselves. So it's something happened. And here's the thing. The majority of your belief systems and who you think you are is formed by the time you're 7. By the time you're 10, it's pretty well locked in. And by the time you're 12, your operating system about what you can and can't do, what you believe, what you don't believe, what scares you, what doesn't scare you is done by the time you're 12. So right before you hit puberty, your brain is pretty well formed as to what your belief systems are.
Huh.
And what you believe you can and what you can and can't do. It's at a very young age.
Okay.
And so if you lived in a household where you were told, you can't do something, you shouldn't do something, that all people are like this and all people are like that, or whatever you experience, the repetition of seeing that on a day over day, week over week, month over month basis formed your belief systems. And, since, you spend most of your time in 2 places, school and at home. Right.
Yeah.
And you're getting input from adults and kids that, 9 times out of 10 are not even family members.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're getting all kinds of feedback, usually negative, from other people. And then you're getting whatever your parents believe to be true, too. And if it's mostly negative, then that's how you're going to think.
It's
and I have a number of friends who are adults they were children of alcoholics, and they're very similar in their patterns because their belief systems were so disrupted and screwed up at such an early age. So it really, I mean, you can almost spot these guys until they don't even have to open their mouths. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea until taking Wally's course where, mine was coming from, and it was just that. I mean, after doing a series of, you have all these different, like homework, going through the homework, writings, journaling, all that stuff. It was my issue came from when I was a kid, one of my coaches that told me how bad I sucked and all this stuff, and I just had that in my head, and you found that and got it out of me, which I would have never gone that far back to figure out what's getting in my way right now.
I appreciate it. And thanks for your vulnerability. I appreciate that. And it doesn't have to be something that's forever. It could be a one-time thing.
Yep.
Could happen one time, And to your point about alcoholics, Brendan, parents, once you experience once you get into an addiction or you're an addiction or you experience trauma and you don't deal with it, like you stop growing in whatever area that is. Usually it's emotionally, right? So if you're an alcoholic and that alcohol is masking the pain of being sexually abused or bullied or beaten up or whatever it is, you stop growing in that area, okay? And so, Brene Brown talks about this, like, once you become an addict, you are unable to deal with your emotions, you're unable to process your emotions, and so you stop growing emotionally, you stop advancing because you are numbing not just the bad stuff, you're numbing the good stuff too. right?
Yeah.
She's like, you can't numb just one emotion. When you numb one, you numb them all, and so you don't take feedback, you don't grow. And then the other thing is it's impossible for you to give emotionally to somebody. So you can't love, you can't pour into your children, you can't, be the dad or the mom. You can't be anything to anybody because your emotions, you are bereft of emotion and the ability to do anything beneficial for somebody usually. And as a result of that, kids of alcoholics also have a lot of trouble dealing with emotions and have a lot of trouble with self-esteem and self-acceptance and self-worth, and never got a good male role model or a good female role model. And so as a result of that, they're way behind the curve in a lot of those areas. So to your point, absolutely.
And Wally, how do we get a hold of your book, or how do we get a hold of you?
Well, so my book's on Amazon. It's part of the Rethink Everything series by Kyle Draper. It's Rethink Everything You Know About Prospecting. Again, the stuff we talk about applies to other things. My cell phone number is 214-334-1356. 214-334-1356. And if you want to email me, it's Wally at milliondollarproduceros.com. milliondollarproducer@os.com. That said, I'm not hard to find on the internet. I've been pretty fortunate. I've got lots of social media, lots of videos and podcasts and stuff. So just go look for Wally Bressler and you'll see my smiling face. And, I anybody can have 15 minutes with me at no cost just to identify whatever the challenge is. And there's no cost and there's no obligation to buy anything. It's just really, because I think, and Matt, I think it's, we look for those aha moments in life, and you kind of just said right there, you had an aha moment,
Yep.
but having that aha moment and realizing where it comes from actually gives you hope that you can deal with it, because now you know what the causation is. Once you know the cause, you can solve the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that my job is to say, okay, you give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can tell you exactly what's causing it now, and I can also tell you what you needed to fix it. The question is are you willing to do what it takes? And if you do, it'll go away, and if you don't, it won't.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, Matt, final words.
Yeah, one more thing though, Wally, you have another good book, that Triggered Sales System too. So, and that can be on Amazon as well.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate. I got three. So the first one is Tragic Hero. That's like part memoir, part personal development. That's like where I take the things that I went through my life and use those lessons to help people understand how to deal with some of the stuff we talk about. I co-authored a book with a bunch of real estate influencers across the United States and Canada called Six Figure Agent, How to Make Your First Six Figures in Real Estate. And then I just came out with this Rethink Everything book. So,
Okay.
yep. So
they're all on Amazon.
The first one and the first one you're talking about is Tragic Hero, which is the one that, was for Trigger Sales System and identifying where those triggers come from. So yes, thank you for that.
Got you. Yep, and thank you for clarifying, and thank you so much for your time, Wally.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And
Yep.
please
Brendan.
follow, subscribe. Let us know if there's anything we can address on our show, and thank you all for watching.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, guys. Brendan, nice to meet you, brother. Thank you so much.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you, Wally. And
Thank
remember,
you, Matt.
tune
You
in.
too.
Yep.
Tune in, as Matt says. I'm Brendan Cunningham, the real estate doctor at EXP. And together, Matt and I are those real estate guys.
There we go. Good.